This would lead to more cash and benefits for the low income. I have all the details and exactly what you need to know, as well as what they're saying right here in the video. Let's get right into it. I know in this video, I do want to share with you the details of an idea they are now floating, which would lead to substantially more cash and benefits for the low income and fixed income beneficiaries. Now, this is something they have not updated in over 15 years, and it is about time, which is exactly why they're floating these ideas out there. Now, I can tell you this much as well. This would lead to hundreds of billions of dollars more in benefits and cash, again, for the low income and fixed income beneficiaries. Let's get into it. And this one simple change, and again, this is a different way to look at things, but this one little change right here would lead to a lot more things out there for the low income. And like I said, hundreds of billions of dollars more on the table for millions upon millions of low income and fixed income beneficiaries. Interesting approach. Let's get into it and talk through the details. Really fast before we do, thanks for joining me. If you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe down below. It is totally free to do so, and it helps a lot of other people find the channel here and all this very valuable information, as well as hit that like button right down below, the thumbs up button. Again, it helps other people find this video and the channel here so they can find all this very valuable information during this very busy time and confusing, as well as I'm here for you every single day, no matter what, as your one and only daily advocate. So again, thanks for joining me. Truly do appreciate it. Please subscribe and like the video down below. Let's get into it and talk about what they have up their sleeve now for the low income and fixed income beneficiaries. And this is a little bit interesting because we haven't really heard a whole lot about this approach, but this one little simple change here would change things in a huge, huge way for a lot of beneficiaries and those low-income Americans, which, by the way, is a ton of people. Maybe you've heard me talk about this before. Let me share with you a quick statistic, okay? According to the last report that came out, I don't know, a few months ago, came out and showed that there is 37.9 million people here in the country, United States, by the way, who are living in poverty, okay? That's a ton of people. 37.9 million people living in poverty, which, by the way, there's over 71 million people living on fixed income benefits administered by the Social Security Administration, okay? That's a lot of people. When we combine those, now, obviously, there's a little bit of overlap with that, but for the most part, we're talking over 100 million people collectively in a country that has 334 million people. So basically 1 out of every 3 people out there is either living in poverty or receiving fixed income benefits. It's crazy, right? Yeah, exactly. All right, so let me share with you the details of what's going on here. All right. You've heard me talk about the federal poverty line before, right? Now, again, it's basically like a line in the sand that is determined each and every year. It raises each year a little bit based on a variety of factors, but it does increase a little bit. However, get this. So remember, the federal poverty line right now, which, by the way, I'm filming this video in the end of 2023, okay? It's going to be 2024 relatively soon here, okay? Now, this number will be updated again, but let me give you a reference as to where we're at right now, the end of 2023. The federal poverty line for 2023 is $14,580 a year, or about $1,215 a month is what it comes out to. So if income is below that threshold, somebody is technically living below the federal poverty line, okay? All right, so here's what they're talking about. They're talking about substantially raising the federal poverty line, okay? Now, each year it does increase by, I don't know, $700, $800, $900, something like that. Not very much. But they're talking about substantially increasing the federal poverty line. Now, this doesn't sound very exciting, but at the end of the day, let me tell you why it could potentially be exciting for fixed income and the low income. Remember, what does the federal poverty line do? Well, when you look at the details and the eligibility for a lot of these different programs that are out there, it's all pegged to the federal poverty line. Somebody's income as a percentage of the federal poverty line, okay? Basically, every single program that is out there, whether it's giving benefits or approving free internet or food assistance or utility assistance. There's a whole variety of programs. There's a ton of programs out there. It's all pegged to the federal poverty line. Your income being 100% of, 125%, 150%, 200% of the federal poverty line, or whatever. It depends on the different program that we're talking about. But basically what they do is they determine a percentage of the federal poverty line, and that's what determines somebody's eligibility. If your income is within, X percent of the federal poverty line, you're eligible for benefits, okay? This is pretty widespread across many of these different programs. Now, here's what's interesting. They want to dramatically increase the federal poverty line. In other words, this would open up a ton more spending. In fact, let me give you one little quick statistic. They said just alone, SNAP benefits alone. Now, this is not including all the other programs that are out there. This is just SNAP alone. This would unlock an extra $124 billion for SNAP benefits over a 10-year period of time just by dramatically increasing the federal poverty line. So basically what this would say is that rather than the federal poverty line being, say, $14,580 this year and maybe, $15,400 or thereabout next year, what they'd basically do is they would increase it significantly. So basically say go from $15,400 next year in 2024 to maybe something like $25,000. Do you think that would swoop in a lot more people and bring them into, basically living below the federal poverty line? The answer is yes. It would increase that number significantly. So the statistic that I shared with you at the beginning of the video, 37.9 million people living in poverty, that number would go from, say, 37.9 to a lot, like 50, 60 million, right? It would go up significantly. Well, as a result of that, do you think that they would approve more money for people living under the federal poverty line? The answer is yes. And like the number I just shared with you a second ago, SNAP benefits alone would be looking at an extra $124 billion. Just SNAP benefits, not including all the other programs that are out there, okay? So this would increase spending, and it would increase a lot more money in the pot for low-income and fixed-income beneficiaries to dip into, right? So you kind of see what I'm saying here? Now, this is something that you don't really hear about a whole lot, okay? I've talked about the federal poverty line before, and again, it is one of these metrics that does increase every year. While it increases, nominally, it increases only a little bit, maybe 5%, 5.5%, something like that. It's not that much, okay? A few $100, $800, $900, maybe something like that. But if they increased it, say $10,000 from, say, like $14,580 this year to maybe $25,000 or something thereabout next year for 2024, that would bring a lot more people under the federal poverty line, and then guess what? That would all of a sudden trigger a lot more spending out of Congress for these low-income benefit programs. Kind of see what I'm saying here? So, interesting stuff. You don't really hear about this a whole lot. You see all the packages, the bills, proposals, things like that talking about, let's raise benefits by 3%. I'm sorry, 3% is not going to cut it, okay? 3% of any number is just not that much, okay? Especially for the low-income benefit programs. Now, again, 3% of $1 billion is a lot of money. 3% of $100 billion is a lot of money. But we're not talking 3% of these huge numbers. We're talking 3% of $300. We're talking 3% on $1,000. It's not much, okay? A 3% increase to anything like SNAP benefits, for example. SNAP beneficiaries got a 3.5% raise starting back in October. October 1st was the beginning of the new fiscal year. 3.5%. I'm sorry, that's not going to put more food on the table for anybody. All that's doing is basically insulating a little bit against all this inflation that has gone into food, okay? It's not even making up for all the food inflation, but again, it helps out maybe a little bit. You kind of see my point here? So that's why the federal poverty line is so incredibly important, and raising it up substantially would really unlock a lot of extra money in a huge way for the low income and fixed income. So interesting stuff. And like I said, the last time that this was dramatically increased was back in the Obama days, okay? So like 15 years ago. Well, I guess not quite 15 years ago. It was 2008, kind of around that time frame. So it's been a long time, right? So that's the last time that these numbers were actually increased significantly. So we will see here what goes forward, but this is a different approach because we see all the bills, we see the packages, we see the proposals, we all see all the people talking about it. But yet to come in like this and just say, hey, if we just raise the federal poverty line significantly, guess what? It automatically unlocks all this extra money, right? Because now more people are below the federal poverty line. See what I'm saying? So it's kind of like reverse psychology a little bit. Kind of a little bit, but it's kind of like a reverse way to look at it. Rather than trying to pass all these bills, we just say, hey, let's just raise the federal poverty line, and boom, we've just unlocked all the money. You kind of see what I'm saying? So it's like the combination to the lock, right? Anyway, interesting approach here. I'll continue to watch this one very closely, and of course, I'll bring any details about this, but interesting. I'm very curious to see how this goes, right? Especially with everything going on, the current administration and things like that, they're very much in tune with this kind of stuff, right? As in, this is something they want to do, right? But we'll see. It also has to go through Congress, remember, okay? That's another major hurdle at this point. So either way, I'll continue watching this closely. And of course, I'll break down anything as far as, money, benefits, checks, raises to benefits, any programs like that you can possibly take advantage of. Of course, I'll bring that to your attention. So subscribe down below, totally free to do so. Share the video with your friends, family, social media. Go back and check out any of the other thousands of videos here on the channel. Hit the like button down below, the thumbs up button, and enjoy your day. That's about it. Hope this helps you. And as always, leave your comments, your questions, your feedback down below. Just want to do what I can to help you out here. And if I need to clarify anything, that's totally fine too. Otherwise, enjoy, take care, have a good one, and catch you again later in the